Hello and welcome to Console Shock Retro Modern Gaming Chat with me, Trev and Stu, and it's been a while. Nearly 2 months actually.
Yeah, well, I think we deserve a break.
I think so. It's difficult doing 2 podcasts a month, isn't it? Sometimes, and that for an hour.
What do you know? What we need to do is release a video every month, committing to doing 3 podcasts a week, and have no intention of ever doing them.
Exactly.
And just carry on doing about 2 a month.
We haven't done that before. So that
we need to just
precedent.
those YouTube videos. I just need to have a word with you just to let you know. And it's
At the
really
Nez Punk has literally just done that. If you watch this little 2023, what I'm doing is like, we're not going to do the CU podcast, or we're not going to do like a weekly one now. It's kind of, I don't know what his kind of reason was, really. I mean, obviously not going to say, you should do your podcast. People do what they want to do, but
yeah, exactly.
I think it was more like he just couldn't be asked, really, or he was a bit burnt out, and there's only so much they can talk about, and it's kind of been swallowed up now. But they'll do specials and stuff, but he's not doing it basically.
I mean, these, all good things come to an end, and
that's the only thing I watch. I don't watch his little funny little skits of NES games and stuff. I just watch his podcast.
I've never really watched that. To be fair,
I don't watch the whole thing, like the whole hour-long thing. I just watch his little clips, 10-minute odd little clips of bits of them. That's what I tend to do. Yeah.
I don't know. He's maybe attracts a little bit too much drama.
Probably, yeah. He's gone a little
I don't know. I haven't watched it to have a real opinion. So, Mr. Pat, if you're listening, I haven't watched it. Crucify
Pat Contry himself.
Pat Contry,
yeah. It's been a while, hasn't it? You've been on Holly Bob's, I think, weren't you, for Christmas, and you've only just got back, really. So it's been been difficult to get something together.
I did take my laptop away, so we could have done a sort of a podcast. But timing would have been off and things like that. But I was going to mention is YouTubers' videos where they sort of. They say, I need to do this, or I'm going to do this, and I think they think people are more engaged in those videos than maybe they actually are.
Yeah, it's a bit. Like I don't really need to know any of that stuff. You don't owe me a reason for you not putting a video out.
I think that's the case. Coming on and really sort of apologise. I'm
state of the channel video.
I'm going to commit to 2 videos a week or 3.
I think Modern Vintage Gamer did it recently as well. Techmoan, I think, had a little one, but I felt really bad for him because he's got some like medical stuff going on. You can watch his video. Obviously, I don't want to talk about it right now, but yeah. So he had to do it.
He's okay. He's
great. Matt's awesome. I've mentioned it before, but we did invite him on, and he turned us down. So yeah.
I don't think he goes on many podcasts, and I think
he doesn't do anything.
He keeps himself to himself.
Fair enough.
I think if he went on every podcast there was around and then said no to us, I think I might be a little bit disappointed. But Techmoan, if you ever want to come on, it's an open invite, obviously, and but
we do like you, Matt. So please, and you're one of my favourites, probably out of all the sort of nonsense that I watch. I think you watch him as well. So yeah,
and do more cooking reviews. Reviews.
They're my favourites, I think.
I love his cooking reviews where he goes, "Well, actually, I haven't got any taste in my mouth."
Yeah, exactly.
And then he's going, "Well, I think this is all right," and then uses some sort of silly gadget, and
like half an hour long like air fryer review, and it's like, well, I can't tell you if the chips are any good. Thanks. Bye. Like, subscribe.
Exactly. And he's absolutely hilarious, and I don't think I've ever watched a half an hour air fryer review or a cooking review of an item except when it's him.
Yeah,
and he can't even taste anything. So
I don't really like He's got obviously there's certain. I've never been like an audiophile beyond. I mean, I had a mini disc player when I was sort of in my late teens, early 20s. So that was a big thing I was big into. I never really was a big person. I went to concerts and gigs, and I never have been. Still not. I wasn't interested in big hi-fis. My dad was. My dad had a big classic hi-fi stack. He had a record player. He would make a point of getting good speakers and the best record player and the best tape player. So I kind of knew what the good stuff was from that, but I was never a nerd about them. So it's more for me, the stuff when he talks about like weird video formats, Laserdisc,
I love that.
VHD.
Yeah.
They're the ones that I really like. He does a lot of them, but I tend to just skip the ones where it's just like, check out this funny audio cassette from something. I'm like, you know, there's tons of people that love that, but yeah.
I think there's a few YouTubers, and he's one of them, where if he was reading the phone book and it was 20 minutes long, I'd watch it.
Yeah.
And he to me, he's just got a very engaging sort of personality, and I think he does absolutely sort of smashing work. And I think for a while he was doing these videos sort of every Saturday, and it was always like, oh, Saturday morning, Tech Mode.
Yeah, you'd pop up there. Yeah.
But I think over Christmas he slightly changed his schedule. But when everyone comes up, it's I'll make an effort to watch it as soon as I can. And there's a few, not many YouTubers that's I'll literally watch everything that they do and then go back and watch older stuff that I may have missed.
Yeah, he doesn't get bogged down as well, like in sort of explaining, like referring to the comments, and he does occasionally, but not in a big way. I was watching Bob on the Retro RGB update. I love Bob. We love you, mate. Keep up the good work. But sometimes even he's like, I know my opinions annoy people, and it's just who I am. You just got to deal with it. Like it's fine. Yeah. Just say this stuff. You don't have to address it. We're all good. Yeah. Preaching to the choir, mate.
So, and I think with YouTube comments is. It's almost like people write stuff to get a reply. They'll put a trolling comment on there, and maybe I've done that, but
I don't think I've gone out of my way to write a negative comment on any video. I mean, I don't really comment on videos generally anyway. The odd one that for some reason has really like given me motivation to do it, I'll do, but generally I don't, and certainly not. When he does mention it, Techman is like, I mentioned that this audio thing, obscure audio thing wasn't that good. And then I get loads of funny emails, people saying to me, how dare you do that? I think
Techmo sort of does it the right way, because he's got his Patreon or YouTube members as well. So I think all his videos actually get released a week before on Patreon, and they're like the core, that they really know the ins and outs of the right stylus to use on your record player and things like that. So when I think he takes a lot of feedback from the 200-300 people that is Patreons and they're actually Matt, it was actually released in 1982. Not 1984, which he said in the video, and then he'll actually edit it a little bit. And I think it's to almost take account of people like that, who are genuinely interested in the comment and are financially involved with it as well. And they'll kind of go, well, they want a better video and a better video for everyone. And I doubt there's anyone that's gonna spend $10 a month on a Patreon subscription and then spend every moment hassling Matt and going, oh, well, you should have said this, and oh, well, we should have done that, and I would have done it better. And
he kind of uses them as like a filter,
QA service, really, isn't it?
QA service, exactly, and it helps iron out any obvious errors that you just miss, don't you, when you're editing something constantly, and you kind of everything becomes a bit of a blur.
Exactly,
but we love you, Matt. Keep it up.
Keep it up, mate. Keep it up, and
keep doing an internet. We'll keep watching you. But I guess we should probably just have a chat about what we've been sort of playing and doing in that sort of time we've been away from recording shows.
I've been playing, I think we talked about this before, but I think I played it for about sort of 6 or 7 hours, Vampire Survivors. And
I've been playing it.
I came back from holiday at Christmas, and then I don't know, it's almost like therapeutic. And Kim
it's very
Justice,
addictive.
Kim Justice did a great video about it, where she talked about the it's like you get into like a state where you're just there sort of playing it and collecting things, and it's a constant sort of reassuring loop, and it's almost relaxing rather than you're worked up from it. And I'm just trying to unlock as many characters as I can, trying to find all the little secrets, and I probably put nearly 30 hours into it, and I think I might give it a go later as well this evening. But I'm smashing game, really enjoying it.
Yeah. We did talk about it. And I think I said that it's kind of like the perfect sort of Steam Deck game.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah,
it's great for that. I mean, I've been playing it on that. I haven't sort of sunk as many hours as you have. I've thought I've done about 8 or 9 at this point. I'm not even sure if we've managed to sort of get to the end of that first stage, like do the half an hour that you have to get to the end. But yeah, I'm probably going to keep dipping in and out of it because it is a fun game. It's just like you don't have to worry about controls, watching cutscenes. You can literally it's almost like Tetris. You can just flip it on. You know exactly what you need to do. It's not complicated. Your brain can just chill and just switch off a little bit to a degree. But there's still a challenge and like a desire to get to the next thing. Like to level up your dude more with the coins that you get. And gems that you pick up to make your next wave or your next attempt slightly easier, and to get to that half an hour point. And then you unlock like more stages, don't you? The more
I mean, it's a little bit of you've got to look on the wiki page to go, to unlock that, you've got to do this character for so long on that level, or bits and pieces. So the wiki's been sort of quite helpful, but it's I think I've got about 900 point gamer score points on there. So it's
nice one.
Yeah, I don't usually get sort of quite that many on a game.
I haven't played it on the Xbox. I've just played it on Steam. There's a lot of achievements on Steam in terms of achievement mining. Actually, I was playing GoldenEye on Xbox.
Let's talk about that. What do you think of the Xbox one?
So I've played both versions, and the Switch one on the default controls are just horrible. I mean, I know some people say, well, you just got there is a thing you can do to fix the controls, but I couldn't be bothered to do it. I might do if I want to play it more, but I mean, I've got N64 emulation on my Steam Deck, so if I could play it on there really, and it'll probably be a better experience. But yeah, the Xbox version is, I think it's better. I'm not too bothered about the multiplayer. Because I don't really play multiplayer online generally.
A little bit of a funny. I don't know. It's funny. The Xbox has sort of got the up-resed version with slightly better whatnots and graphics.
Yeah, the controls are like modern.
Exactly. The controls. As soon as I picked it up, I've done like the first few levels. I've done the first level, I think. And I sort of went to bed, but. It felt very like, this is like it looks like the original game, but actually it's got very intuitive controls. But of course, the Xbox version hasn't got the online gaming, and not that I would do that, but it seems like, well, then it came out on the Switch version, which is just a like an N64 version of
it's basically the ROM.
It's basically the ROM, but with the online gaming. And then the controls now, we've talked about it in the past, the N64 GoldenEye controls, back in the day is, they did work. And, once you get used to them, but the problem is for the last 20 years, it's a completely different control system from every other first person game that there has ever been.
I mean, they still, I mean, I could dig out the N64 and use the N64 controller and play GoldenEye, and it would feel better than it actually does on the Switch. That's probably because I've got the muscle memory still there from playing it to death when I was, a teenager. The single player and the multiplayer around mates' houses and stuff. So I would prefer, if I had to do the old control scheme, I'd rather do it with a real N64 controller. It's still not as good as modern 2-stick controls. Yeah, it was designed for that controller. Which is a problem with a lot of N64 games. And you try and, rebind those keys to a modern controller, it never quite works. And the analog stick had a certain sensitivity about it. It was a bit stiffer than modern and analog sticks, which are a bit looser and a bit more zippier to use. But yeah, it was good. I mean, obviously with the same sort of criticisms that those sort of 6th gen games get now, hit GoldenEye, a lot of people say, it's aged very badly. 6th gen graphics are crap. That made games difficult to play now. The controls, obviously, we've already mentioned that. People seem to saying it was overrated, which is kind of, I kind of get a bit offended by that when people say that, because I think it was an amazing game at the time. I'm not entirely sure. I don't really agree with, GoldenEye. Obviously, they say, it hasn't aged well, and that's not really necessarily just GoldenEye. It's 6th gen games. I still find 6th gen 3D polygon graphics impressive, because they blew me away. I mean, I see people like in the various sort of Facebook groups I'm in, like, even when like PS1 came out, I thought the graphics looked crap, because it was all blocky and ugly. I was like, how did you think that? Because that was incredible. Yeah. How you could have things in 3D and different camera views. That blew
Trev,
my mind.
When I first saw Tekken on the PlayStation, I thought that does not compare to Soul Calibur 7.
Yeah. Well, when you saw Tekken. When you saw Tekken in 1995, I thought, this is crap.
I thought I'm not buying Soul Calibur 7 was so much better. That's what I thought in 1994.
You know what? You could actually say Soul Blade or
Soul Blade.
That I think that looked better than Tekken, didn't it? That looks still well. I think they all look good to me. These days, I get it. I'm not saying I think they're wrong. But I just don't have that same problem with those things looking ugly. Because to me, they're not.
I think that the whole thing is, if you genuinely thought that those games back in 1994 looked awful, and then what's he doing talking about them? Why is he even interested in computer games now?
You just need to stop getting. I mean, I sometimes get into arguments with people, like someone. I mean, like an N64. I think it's called the. Other people could join this if they want. It's the Nintendo 64 Super Group, and it is obviously people in their 30s and 40s who grew up with the N64. Us, basically. And so there's always some kind of person that tries to like knock the PS1, and I like the N64. Probably more than a lot of people might. But the PS1 is just better, unfortunately, and I can admit that as someone that and I'm happy. It's my favorite console of all time, the PS1. But someone said, it was something comparing the sales figures, and they were like, 100 million units versus 30, but the real people made the right choice. Obviously, saying N64 is better, and I sort of trolled it and said, yeah, they all picked the PlayStation. And someone like got back and like, no, they picked the N64 because that had way better library of games. And it's like, no, they got outsold 3-1. So people picked the PS1. That's literally a fact. And
I think in reality, the PlayStation had so much more, variety of games and a huge, great big catalogue. But even today, you discover games that you've not even heard of that are absolute classics.
Yeah,
obviously, but the N64 had its, 250 games, whatever it did, and
you could probably say about 20. I mean, there's lots of racing games, lots of sports games, which is odd to say for a Nintendo system. It's the only one that you could really say that. Maybe the GameCube is the other one, but there's probably about 20 games. We did an N64 episode. We don't need to go deep into that. But compared to the PS1, there are some genres that just don't exist on the N64. There's no Parappa the Rapper equivalent, on the N64. There's just stuff that Metal Gear Solid. There's stuff that just
RPG games. There's like one or two
JRPGs.
And of course on the PlayStation, hundreds.
Light gun games, there's none. Fighting games. You got like Mortal Kombat Trilogy and like War Gods and some really janky kind of crap ones. Mortal Kombat Trilogy is probably the best one on the N64. It is actually quite good. But compared to like the PlayStation, there's absolutely no contest. And I would argue the sports games are better on the PS1 as well. That's so. Sorry, guys. Probably annoyed a lot of people, but that's just, our thoughts.
Well, it's a fact, but not saying the N64 wasn't good.
There's no real scientific evidence for it, but it is a fact. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, what else have I been playing? No, that's about it, really. Just Vampire Survivors and a little bit of GoldenEye, just to sort of give that a go. But
I've bounced around a few things.
Else have you...
Yeah. Bounced around a few things. Like literally at the weekend, I sort of went nuts on Sunset Riders, which is a freaking amazing game. One of my favorites, like ever. Kind of, I've been playing it for a long time. I didn't just discover it on the weekend. I just got an urge to play it again. But I kind of bounced around some of the different versions. Now we're getting, there's like some amateur coders in Brazil, I think, are making a remake of the Mega Drive version, which was always a bit janky compared to the others. And it looks freaking amazing. It's like Sunset Riders Arcade Edition, and it looks exactly like the arcade. It's stunning, absolutely stunning. Our friend Retro Gamer Boy does a good video on it. He shows he got a demo of the first level that they've managed to complete so far. They're going to try and complete the whole game and program the whole game, but it obviously craps all over the Super Nintendo version, which is pretty good in itself. But yeah, played the arcade version, which is on the Switch. You can get that on the Switch. There's like an arcade archives version. It's really great. Played the original Mega Drive version, which is kind of got hamstrung by the fact that Konami put it on a 4 megabit cart. I think the arcade machine's like 16. So they cut a couple of characters out. It's still good. It's still good, though. It's still good. They kind of had to remix it, kind of like Ninja Turtles Hyperstone versus Turtles in Time. Very similar. Although Hyperstone's a lot closer to the Super Nintendo game than this is. And there's a Super Nintendo version, which is really, really good and close to the arcade. So you probably want to play that version. Well, obviously, these days, you just get the Switch release. But if you want to dig out a retro console, play the Super Nintendo, because it's pretty close to the arcade. And it's if you like running, for no people know what Sunset Riders is, it's basically Contra or Metal Slug, but with cowboys. And it's really, really, really good fun. So yeah, messed around with that.
When you said Sunset Riders, I had a complete sort of brain freeze, and I thought you were playing that game on the Xbox One, Sunset
Overdrive. Is that a sequel to Sunset Riders?
I don't think so. Well, I don't think so. No,
but not very similar.
Things
Red Dead Redemption is closer to a sequel to that than to Sunset Riders. I would say
exactly. So that's what I was thinking about. You were playing, but did you watch the Summoning Salt video about Star Wars: The Complete Saga?
What, the Lego game?
The Lego game, yeah.
No, funny enough, I actually tried playing Lego City Undercover.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's basically. I mean, I thought it would be more like Grand Theft Auto than it actually is.
It's just like Lego, but in like a toy little police world.
I mean, it's like you've got very similar.
There's a little bit of an open world, but
it's not as substantial as Grand Theft Auto.
No, but I think I've actually finished that on the Wii years ago, on the Wii U.
Yeah, I had it on the Wii, and I tried it then, and it just kind of fell out of it. And then it was on sale on Steam for like a couple of quid. So I thought, I'll get that to play on my Steam Deck. It's kind of a good Steam Deck game. It runs great on a Steam Deck, 60 frames a second. Better than it would have done on the Wii U back in the day.
Oh yeah, 100%,
but it's kind of it's got the standard Lego kind of levels where you're going around collecting all the parts, beating up the bad guys, collecting more parts, maybe doing a very basic puzzle, and they're just interconnected by the open world. It could almost just be a linear level by level thing. Really, they almost didn't need the open world, really. But it's all right.
What I was getting at with the Summoning Salt, he did a video all about the what was it, speed runs
PS2 game, isn't it? I think, yeah.
No, Xbox 360. Wii, PC,
PSP, and
Anyway, it was on sale on Xbox Live for I think $1.99 or $2.99. Yeah, the Xbox Marketplace. So I did buy that. So just based on watching this hour and a half video, but I'm not going to attempt to speed run.
No, the only game that I attempted to do semi-quick, just to see what I could do with Super Mario Brothers 1, and I did it in about 40 minutes from start to end, not using a warp zone. The warp zone.
Oh, that's good.
So that was manually going through every stage, dying a lot. Yeah. So it took me about
what's the limit?
Minutes.
What's the record then?
It's like 5 minutes. I'm nowhere near. I think that's probably still. I don't know what the warpless record is. I think it's probably about 20 minutes. But that's using a lot of exploits and janky bits that you can skip through and clip through.
A little bit.
Yeah, I just don't have the dedication to do that. I've seen people speed run Alien Isolation and do it in about 3 hours. Yeah, that's
quick question.
That's an interesting one.
Have you bought the new Dead Space remake?
I haven't. I want to. I mean, I've completed the original Dead Space, God, about 3 or 4 times now, because I freaking love that game. And 2 and 3. I've only gone through those 2 once, though. 3 wasn't that great. 2, so everyone says 2 is the best one. And I kind of feel like I enjoy games more on the second go, in a weird way. Yeah, because I kind of I can kind of relax more and appreciate what's happening around me a bit more. And a game has to really pull me in to want to do it again and again, which Dead Space did. But I probably would do 2 again. But no, I haven't. Part of it is not really having a great setup to run it on, because it's next gen or current gen now, I guess, isn't it? Current gen exclusive. So it's on Xbox Series and PS5. I don't have a PS5 or an Xbox Series. You can do it on PC, but the minimum specs are about what my gaming laptop is.
Are you not thinking now, because the Xbox Series X, the PS5, you can pretty much walk into a shop now and get one of them? Are you thinking about sort of going down that route and picking one up, or?
I've thought about it. I mean, my Steam Deck has been like my main console, really. It's just so easy just to pick it up and play a game. You can run the new Dead Space remake on it. I've seen videos of it, and it's playable. You can get sort of 30 FPS, but there's lots of like shader compilation stutter, which probably if you've been watching Digital Foundry, they're not fans of that, and no one is, because it's really irritating. So you'll be looking in one part of the building you're in, or the corridor in the case of Dead Space, and you'll perhaps quickly flip around behind you, and it will just judder and stutter, and sometimes just stop, literally pause for a couple of seconds, because it has to like sort of prepare the sort of texture data and geometry data and kind of build it. There are games that build all that stuff before you start the game, so it's already there. It doesn't got to work it out as it goes along. And also, if you've played a game through once, the second time it doesn't need to do the shader compilation because it's done it. So there's that as well. So I haven't done, and it's quite expensive. It's about 50 quid at the moment. I know that's what games cost now, but yeah, I probably will get it like when I get paid at the end of the month. Still kind of recovering from Christmas, paying for Christmas, but yeah,
same here, mate.
Yeah, I thought about getting. I mean, what is a PS5 now? It's obviously
it went up. It went up, didn't
it?
It's £480, and
the series is still about, was it 430 or something? I think.
Yeah.
Oh no, that hasn't gone up. I don't know which one I would get. I mean, I like the idea of the PSVR 2, but I'd have to buy the whole thing. I'd have to get the PS5 as well, and that'd be over $1,000. Which is
that's a big commitment anyway. So
yeah, I could get a gaming. I mean, I've thought about getting just a desktop gaming PC, kind of ditching my laptop, because the Steam Deck kind of covers that now. I know it doesn't run the games as well as that laptop does, but I could potentially spend a bit more and get a gaming PC. I've thought about just putting like Linux on it and just using like Steam and using Proton to run Windows games, and not to deal with Windows, much like you do on the Steam Deck. And then, obviously the saves cross over between both systems. So that I thought about. So yeah, probably in the next few months, I might pull the trigger on something like that. And there've also been like really cool new handhelds from like GPD Win and Iron Neo that are a little bit more powerful than the Steam Deck. And I thought, God, I could maybe just buy one of them and I'll get a little boost. But then I thought, well, Valve could potentially bring out a new Steam Deck in a couple of years.
I'd hold on to the Steam Deck. I think
for the performance boost, it wouldn't be for the lack of it. Really, it's only like a few percent and a few extra frames here and there. It's probably not worth 700, 800 quid, really. So a desktop PC would be much better spending that sort of money, because you'll get a huge, and they've kind of got to the point now where like a GTX 30 series. Which is kind of a last gen graphics card, is already about the level of a current gen console and slightly better in a few ways.
Exactly, and the prices are coming down a lot on gaming gear at the moment, and I'm I don't know. I always say, we'll get a gaming computer, but I'd like to go down that route, within the next sort of few months or next 6 months or something. Just see how money is.
Yeah, my laptop say it's it's not super old, but I got it in 2018. So that's 5 years old now, and it's got a GTX 1070 in it, which can just about keep up with current gen, but not particularly great. It's better than what I would have get on the Steam Deck. But another game I've been playing, Jedi Fallen Order, and bloody hell, it ran like absolute wank on that. It ran better on my Steam Deck. It might be because Windows is adding a whole layer of extra jank, to it that Steam Deck doesn't have to deal with. I could just play it on the Xbox, but I'm nearly at the end of Jedi Fallen Order, so I don't really want to. I can't copy my save over or anything, so I'm just going to keep going. But it's a good experience on the Steam Deck. It's really good fun. It's kind of
it's one of the games they advertised, didn't they? It was Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, so I think it's been highly optimized.
Yeah, you get a good sort of 40 frames a second. Keep it locked at about 40 frames a second. It looks good. It's better than what you would have played it on an Xbox One. Obviously it's in the palm of your hand, which is incredible. So yeah, I've done a few other things with the Steam Deck as well. I've got some old games running on it, like I've got Simpsons Hit and Run, PC version of that. Running on it, great. Jedi Fallen Order, been playing some of that. FIFA 22, I've probably been carried on playing that. I know it's not the latest one, but 23 doesn't work on the Steam Deck because of EA's anti-cheat software.
Oh, really?
Doesn't work with Proton. Apparently, it's annoying on on just Windows as well. It kind of, it causes issues with FIFA 23 on that. I'm hoping, maybe it'll either suddenly start working on the Steam Deck and they'll fix it, or 24 will be the one. That they'll be able to get it working on. So just playing but that's kind of cool. Playing not a baby sort of chopped down version of that game like we were on the Switch, basically the 360 version, wasn't it? We've been playing for the past several years now. It's just the I don't think it's the current gen version because the PC didn't get that until 23. But it's basically a big console version of the game, but in the palm of your hand, which is pretty good. And sports games always will run well on lower end hardware.
Exactly. I mean, with obviously it's the pitch is sort of pretty static, isn't it? You're not playing around huge polygons, are you? So
you can show lower quality versions of the players because you're so far away from them. So you're never going to struggle to run a game at 60 frames a second of a sports game. Maybe when you're doing third person, be a player mode, you can sometimes struggle then. But I don't play those modes, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, it kind of leads us on. We've touched upon a little bit, but for the sort of next sort of chunk of the show, you do want to talk about VR because obviously there's PSVR 2 coming out, and before we actually sort of jumped in, you sort of said a funny little story that happened to you while you were away. Well, and it is VR related. So, yeah, let's hear it.
It is. And to me, I've never used VR. I just think, give me motion sickness. I want to know what's going on. I want to sit on the sofa, controller in my hand and play a computer game. That's the way I like to, or actually laying in bed with the Switch. But went on holiday, so I was in an airport, and basically I was sort of sitting there, and I was sort of, just playing with my phone, and I could hear gunshots. So I sort of looked around, and obviously I knew they weren't real gunshots; they were quite faint. And then some guy was sort of standing there with two sort of white controllers in his hand and a headset, and he was playing. It looked like a first-person shooting game, and you could, he seemed to be really into it. And I think I made a sort of a tweet saying, well, in my day, you went to the airport with your Game Boy or a PSP or a Atari Lynx, as you probably would have done, Trev, and something like that, or maybe even a gaming laptop, and done a bit of gaming, or a Switch these days. I actually had a Switch in my bag, to be honest, and it just seemed like I wouldn't want to be in an airport with a headset on and with people walking around. I'd be very conscious about people seeing me and maybe videoing me and putting it on Twitter as I did.
Thankfully, no one did. Oh no, you did do it. Damn.
I did do that. Yeah, and I didn't ask his permission. I don't know who he was, but you couldn't see his face because he had a VR mask on.
It's all good. He's not going to get doxxed.
Now, would you, Trev? Now, obviously, you've got a VR. You've used VR a lot more. You used it, and I haven't used it. So, would you maybe, let's say, you're waiting at a train station and you've got an hour to wait for your train? Would you get your VR kit out and maybe play an hour of a game?
Well,
is that something you would do?
There are certain things I would whip out on a train or a bus, like literally just whip it out right there. I'm of course referring to, like a Vita or a Switch or something, just like whip that out and play it.
That feels a bit normal, doesn't it?
That's not too. I mean, handheld games consoles have been around a long time now. Probably, no one's going to bat an eyelid seeing you do it. Going back to the Game Boy, really. But yeah, VR, hell no. It's just too bulky. You look like weird. You've got to move around, and your arms have got to move around. You've got to be looking around. That'd just be freaking embarrassing, to be honest. I don't know what would possess someone to do that in public.
Exactly.
Absolute mad lad.
I was sitting there. My plane was actually delayed. So I was sitting there for about 45 minutes to an hour, and the whole time he was playing this first-person shooting game with his VR kit, and there were like plenty of people like walking past him, and must have gone like, what's going on? What the hell? And
what is this gentleman up to?
And I don't know. I was like for me, I knew exactly what he was playing, a VR game. But sometimes when you're in, and this was a big airport in Singapore, where flights are coming from all over the world, changing there and going somewhere else. So I can't imagine how someone maybe from I don't know, maybe a less developed country might have gone there and thought Essex from Southend. Sorry, Kim. Might have gone there. What the fuck is going on? Who's this person?
Some kind of like Daft Punk man.
Yeah, exactly. And for them, it's something that they've never ever seen before in their life. And I don't know.
Someone from like myself, being from the East Midlands, even I would have been absolutely dumbfounded by that, So as probably other people from maybe even like the West Midlands, people might be like, what the hell is that?
East Anglia.
What about
people from East Anglia?
Shropshire. All those, Wiltshire, all the shears, you could throw them in there.
What about people from Tyneside?
Wearside? There's all the sides, all the shires, all the Lunds, basically.
Yeah.
And the sexes, the various sex, Essex, Wessex, Sussex, Middlesex, yeah. All the sex, the sexi, I suppose it'll be the plural. Yeah. But that's just bizarre. I mean, it kind of, with something like the Quest, I was going to say Oculus Quest, it's not anymore, is it? It's the Facebook, Meta Quest. That is something that, because it's a self-contained unit, it is possible to do this sort of thing now. That to be jacked into some kind of a base unit. I mean, you've got a PS5, so I mean, are you thinking about getting the VR too?
No, I haven't got PS5. No, I've got the Xbox.
Oh, you got a Series, yeah.
Series X, and that's got no real VR thing. But I honestly, if I had a PS5, and I don't think I would buy the VR. It's something that I don't know. It's I'm not really sort of taken sort of back. I almost don't need more stimulation from a game. It's maybe I might try it and I might be like, wow, this is the best thing on earth. I've never experienced anything like it, but I can't imagine that's what I'll think.
I'm kind of. I mean, I've got the PSVR 1, and when I got it and played it, it did blow me away. I was like, this is incredible. You know, it's so immersive. It's nothing. You can't get more immersive than that. The little demo disc it comes with, there's loads of little awesome little like experiences on there that are pretty good, and you know, on their own. Batman Arkham VR is probably the best VR game I've played. I haven't played a lot of them, but I really enjoyed that. Astrobot, the Astrobot game was fun as well. I think I played the demo of that. There was loads of other little tidbits that I played as well. And I really enjoyed it, but it's just a faff getting it set up. You know, you have to have the external processing box set up. You need to have about 3 cables that needs. There's another couple of cables that go into the headset. You need the PS camera. You need the dildo, the Move controllers, the dildos. So it was, you can't just casually quickly whip on the VR headset and bang, you can play a game. I think that's supposedly what you can do with the VR too. It's headset,
meant to be
cable, done. Yeah. And that is a lot more appealing. I mean, I haven't played my PSVR 1 in like probably months, 8 or 9 months, and it was only sporadically that I would play it. And there are issues with motion sickness as well, which I dealt with it.
Exactly, and I've seen people who have gone, I like playing the VR, whichever one, I'm not quite sure. And then, but after 25 minutes, 20 minutes, you have to take it off and just, you feel a bit sick.
It depends on the game. Yeah,
exactly. And, I don't want to, buy a game and it might make me feel sick. That's that's a risk you take with lager. If you have too much lager, you're going to feel a little bit sick, a little bit horrible in the morning. But when you buy a computer game, you kind of expect, well, actually, if I play that for 2 hours, I'm at the end of it, I probably won't feel sick.
It depends on the game. Like something like Batman Arkham VR, where you're basically standing still, you're not really walking around or doing anything. I was able to play that for multiple hours and be perfectly fine. But then I played like Gran Turismo Sport, and it's sort of quite limited VR mode that it has. And initially, I could just about finish a lap before it made me feel too motion sick, so I had to take the VR headset off. After doing it a few times, I could finish a race. Wipeout, Omega Collection, which has a VR, that was awful. It's so floaty and fast. I couldn't even finish a lap with that. It's so difficult. And Ultra Wings, which is like a Pilot Wings, not a remake, but sort of very similar to Pilot Wings. That's got a PSVR version, and also it's a flight sim. So you can have it so that you're in you have the complete panoramic view around your little like helicopter thing or hang glider, which makes you feel more motion sickness, or you can have it so you've got a slight more tunneled vision. It puts like shutters on the sides, so you can reduce your field of view, which makes you less motion sickness. That wasn't too bad, but it still made you feel a bit sick. Certain games, I don't know if you can train your brain if you play it constantly to get better at that stuff. I did mention that I was able to do Gran Turismo for longer periods of time the more I played it. So perhaps there is some, something I've just literally thought of now, and there isn't any scientific studies of it. But yeah,
I think my opinion of VR is, when it originally came out, it was billed as, this is now the future, and now it's more. It's almost going down the route of, remember 3D TVs and stuff like that. It's kind of like, well, this is sort of something over here that, well, it will get better. We'll put a bit more effort into it,
but it's for the people that are into that. Yeah,
it's for the people that are into that. It's a nice to have. It's not. Remember when the Game Boy came out? Everyone wanted the Game Boy. VR, and not everyone sort of wants that. And I watched a video from Rich from Review Tech USA.
You watch him?
Oh God, yeah.
Kept that quiet.
He's got some new bloody things he kisses at the start.
Oh, it's getting weirder, isn't it? What's it going to be like in another year?
Honestly, and then his Twitter, he's just taking pictures of himself with his shirt off and moaning about that quartering guy. Anyway, he made a good point, sort of saying, actually, the pre-orders are pretty low for the PSVR 2, and I don't think it's going to get quite the uptake and that that maybe the PSVR 1 had. And also, I think there's some issue with the PSVR 2 won't pay the PSVR 1 games. Now, I don't know if that's quite the ins and outs of that, but
it's an interesting point about sales, because the VR1 sold about 5 million. I mean, the sales figures are up to date to 2019, what they've released. So it might have done a bit more over the top of that. I can't imagine it would have been very much. So 6 million, which compared to the 120 odd million PS4s there are, it's absolutely tiny. I think there was probably a higher ratio of mega CDs to mega drives than there has been to PSVRs to PS4s, and that was cheaper. It wasn't cheap when the VR came out, but it was reasonable compared to the other options on the PC at the time, were the only place you could really go. It didn't feel as expensive as the second one is going to be. So for something that sold 5 million lifetime, and then Sony thought they would be able to sell 2 million, because that's apparently how many they've made or they were going to make, is a bit much. And in terms of the compatibility, it can't play the old stuff, and that's mainly because the technology is so different. The PSVR 2 would need to be able to use the camera, the PS4 camera, the PlayStation Move controllers, the various sensors that are in the PSVR that might not be duplicated.
Well, I mean that makes sense, and sometimes if you want to push things forward, you've unfortunately got to.
But it isn't good. It isn't good because all those games that you might have bought for your first VR are now, where you got to dig out that every time you want to play them.
Well, exactly. And I can't imagine the original. Does the original VR work on a PS5?
I think it does. I think you can. I think because obviously it's backwards compatible with PS4. Generally,
so I think the games will actually work, but they'll just come up with an error saying, "Oh, unfortunately, you don't have the right controller or whatever to play it," and
I think you can pair. From what I could see, I literally just did a quick search. So you can use a PSVR 1 on PS5. Obviously, you've still got all the headaches of setting it up, but so you can, you'll be able to download the games again. They're not going away completely. But God, it would have been so convenient just to be able to whack on the new one and just have it work. Or they could, I guess you would need the developers to rebuild the games maybe to make maybe a PSVR 2 native version or something. But that's probably a bit much, isn't it, to get the developers to do that? And it's just the price as well. I mean, it's 529 quid. So, on top of the cost of the console, if you haven't already got it, as I mentioned earlier, it's over $1,000, for both of them. So, like I said, it's
that. But then saying that, if you go down the PC route, it's going to be potentially twice that.
It would be. You'd probably pay for a strong PC. You might pay what you'd pay the total of the PSVR 2 and the PS5. Yeah.
And then to get your headset, and then obviously to invest in the games and the controllers.
You can plug a MetaQuest into a PC and run VR games through that. And the MetaQuest is only a couple £100. I mean, so you could make a saving potentially if you've got a moderate gaming PC. I don't know if you better do it with one of those pre-built ones you can get from Scan and eBuyer. If you built it yourself, you probably could do something for 500, 600 quid that was kind of PS5 level. And then get a MetaQuest, but you're still kind of close to and maybe about what you would pay. So, but you could say, well, I've got more games on the PCs, have more VR games going back. And those, but I can't really say too much about that because I don't know if old gen VR games will if any of those ones you could just buy on Steam work on the MetaQuest. I don't know. I don't know if they have to use a particular headset. Some of them do. I don't really know.
It seems like to me is, what I think the question is, and now I've got no intention of getting one. I think I've mentioned that countless times. But what do you think about the future of VR? Now, I think my opinion in 5-10 years time, it's not going to be the future. It's not going to be we're all sitting with VR headsets in the metaverse. No, I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to be walking around and communicating. That's not reality. But where do you think VR will be in 5 to 10 years time?
I think VR gaming right now, I think it'll get more popular. It may even nearly get to the point where it's as common as just a regular game off a TV screen. But to get to that point, it needs to be convenient to use. So basically like putting on a pair of glasses, probably be a bit more self-contained than a pair of glasses where you could see outside. But if it was something that, some kind of goggles that you just slip on, the sensors are all inside it. You haven't got to have cameras pointed at you. Maybe not even a cable. It's just wireless. I know the bandwidth it would need, somehow to have that work out. But there's no cables. You just pop a little thing on your head that's lightweight. And perhaps there's ways that the motion sickness can be tackled. And maybe in 10 years we'll be near there. The MetaQuest is fairly good at being self-contained, and it's by no means, lightweight, and it's not heavy, but it's still a fairly chunky device you've got to slap on yourself, And perhaps even little things like you can quickly like turn off the VR and see outside. So if someone just wants to walk past you to get a cup of tea, they haven't got to tap you on the shoulder and make you jump. And, you could quickly hide the VR and see out through the main camera or something and quickly jump back when you need to. So I think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to die off at all. I think it's going to get better.
To be honest with you, I almost sound like I want it to die off. I don't like it, so no one else should. Actually, I do want it to succeed, and I think you're right in saying, and the more power that these things get thrown at it, then actually it will get better and better and better, and become a much nicer experience. And to go back to my story at the beginning, of the guy at the airport who spent maybe 45 minutes, an hour, if not more, he could have missed his flight and still be there now, for all I know. But the issue is that he looked like he was having a great time playing some first-person shooter game, and he didn't have to be in his living room with lots of wires coming out, and he just had the headset on, 2 white controller things, and he was just turning around on the spot and playing the game. And actually, that was a very sort of self-contained environment where he was obviously very engrossed, and he certainly wasn't getting motion sickness or anything like that. And so
I don't think it's going to become like Ready Player One. There might be a kind of a version of that that will happen, but literally you get, as soon as you go home from work, you put your visor on and just spend all night in there, and every other waking hour in there. I can't imagine people wanting to do. Well, there's some people that will always be on the fringes of those things. People play World of Warcraft all day and nothing else. Yeah, so there'll be people that will do that. But the mainstream thing, I think that'll have. Plus, God, Ready Player One is the shittiest film I've ever seen, so I wouldn't want any of that to
Ready Player One.
Yeah, I thought it was awful.
I read the book. I really enjoyed it.
You know what? I get half the people tell me, "Oh, it's crap. Never read the book," and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's the best book I ever read." It was just easy to read. I don't know. It almost sort of felt like like sort of teen fiction. The thing with the film was.
There was nothing at stake. So I've got an opinion.
It's probably going to be the same. I think it's mostly the same as the book. There's nothing really at stake. The thing that they're all worried about is like a Microsoft type company is going to buy the Nexus, whatever it's called, and ruin it. Well, and they were like, well, just go and someone else will make another one, a better one, and people just move over to that. It's fine. No one's going to die. And then there's the whole thing of like finding the keys to get the access to the Steve Jobs character's like final treasure of stuff. The guy that made the multiverse. Yeah,
that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah. So and there's like the first
trying to get the clues and
trying to get the clues. The first one is like ridiculous because it's like basically it was there's a big race, and to get the first key, which is part of the puzzle, you basically just had to go in reverse. Now, like, if I gave my mum like a controller and got her to play Gran Turismo, she'd go in reverse accidentally. So that big mystery would have been resolved within minutes. And like people have been spending years to got to say it's a review of this film. It's just really a ridiculous. There's one scene where this guy is aiming a gun at the main protagonist, and there's an entire mob of people stood behind the guy, and no one makes an attempt to tackle him down to the ground. He's just one guy with a gun. They're just like standing there letting him point a gun at a dude. I'm just like, and I can't believe a bunch of like, you know, like I think this is like in 30 or 40 years in the future, isn't it? It's supposed to be. I can't imagine a bunch of like teens in like 2050 are going to be into like 80s like films. That would be like that's like ancient to them by this time. It's like us being obsessed with like Gone with the Wind, you know, or so you know what I mean. Those things are almost alien to people of our generation. So
Trev, I do love Sound of Music.
Yeah, exactly. Let's have an entire metaverse based on that.
Let's do an episode on the Sound of Music.
Yeah, and it was also the fan service. Like, oh look, there's a DeLorean. Oh look, there's other characters from stuff. I felt like you're being manipulated to give them a cheap, you know, hit of going yay, you know. And I don't like that. I'm like, well, you know, make me want to be good and feel good because it's just good stuff happening in the film. But anyway, yeah, my point is, I mean, there's kind of been stuff like that already, like Second Life in like the 2000s, which I dabbled with a little bit back in the day. It's just a VR version of that, really. But yeah, I think it will get better. I'm probably PSVR 3. I mean, basically, we need PSVR 2 to be successful. I mean, do you think this will be successful? Do you think it will beat the 5 million units of the first one?
I think it might have lost that novelty. You know, we've got to try it, and it's almost like the Connect 2. You know, a lot of people bought it because it was, you know, something new, something exciting. I think they've tried it, and I think they're like, well, actually, I think what we'll have is, instead of 5 million people buying it, you know, 2.5 million people might buy it, but they have a lot more engagement, a lot more. You know, a lot more. They'll enjoy it more, and it'll get more use. And they might find that, in fact, with the original system, they might have sold one game or two games, but then with the new PSVR 2, they might sell 4 or 5 games with it, and you'll have a little bit more. It'll become a better product. That's what I know, and obviously I liked it to succeed, and. But it still doesn't really seem to have a real sort of killer title. But actually, that's something I really want to try. And all these, you know, things like sort of Ready Player One. There doesn't seem quite to be the walk around the metaverse type sort of game.
A killer app of any kind, really. Whereas the PSVR had that novelty factor, so everything that was come out for it was like a new experience that people would want to try. Whereas we've had a few years now of VR being a common thing.
For me, imagine if something like World of Warcraft came out, you know, the VR version, so you can actually, you know, put your headset on and actually be, you know, walking around the World of Warcraft,
the World of Warcraft land,
World of Warcraft land, whatever it was called. I did play it years ago, but and you can actually more sort of interact with people and you know, walk around Stormwind and buy this and do that and then do your raids and
imagine if they did like, you know, Shenmue VR where you could like just walk down the street
that'd be a waste of time. That'd be a waste of time.
Play darts and go to bed and sit in a park, you know, buy some milk in a supermarket. It'll be incredible.
Yeah, brilliant.
Move some boxes in a forklift.
Brilliant.
Wouldn't get any better than that.
You do that on VR, can you?
Yeah. Should it a wanking sign for people. Very offensive to people that like Shenmue. Adam Corrigan coming on this show now.
People that go on and on about Shenmue bores, honestly.
I'm a fan, and I resent it because I'm an OG. I'm not some Johnny come lately who just likes it now. I bought it Christmas 2000. Like, it had been out a month.
Do you know?
I got it
for about
OG
a week,
right here.
For about a week or a month or something, it must have been, wow, this is the future. But then actually, you go back now, and it's not a game for me.
The second one is way better. The first one is very jank. It's quite janky to play now, but the second one is way better, and that's only a couple of years. You get younger, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those games. Well, actually, I don't think I mind the game. Actually, I just don't like the fans of the game.
Yeah. What was just said? No, neither do I.
I've got a 20th anniversary exclusive CD here. Look at me. And
there's a statue of Ryo
I've got an art book.
I've got none of that stuff. I've got the physical games. I've got like the original Dreamcast game, as in my original copy I bought in 2000, and I've got Shenmue 2 original copy on the Dreamcast, and I've got the Xbox version. I haven't bought any of the sort of tat around it. There's not really any good tat. It's just a Japanese teenager in a leather jacket. There's not really anything you could do for it, you know. No. So
have you played the third one?
You know what? I haven't. I've got it in my Steam.
Oh, call yourself library. A fan.
I know I do. Yeah. I need to. I need to get past what I've got in my backlog at the moment because it's going to be a slog.
Yeah,
I know it is, but I managed to get through 2 quite quick. I played it on the Xbox version 2 or 3 years ago now, and I think I did it in about a week. But that was like playing it every evening and just literally getting through the story and not messing around or spending time playing in the arcade or buying capsule toys and all the other Shenmue stuff. I'm kind of burnt out on that stuff now, Stu. I can't be doing that, you know.
No,
playing darts and wasting time doing that. Although the dart game is very, very fun in Shenmue. But yeah. Well, everyone's like, oh no, play Yakuza. Yakuza's the Shenmue, modern Shenmue. I'm like, okay. Have you played those games? I've played one of them.
I think I've tried one. One was on Game Pass or something, and
just Grand Theft Auto, isn't it? I think it's just Grand Theft Auto.
No, it's a much smaller world. It's a very, very detailed world, but in fact, it's a lot more like Shenmue.
Yeah. Isolated little like areas you're based in for a bit. Yeah,
there's a lot more sort of fighting. It's more focused on fighting rather than big sort of open missions and.
You could go into an arcade and play like actual like Virtua Fighter 5 and stuff, can't?
Oh well, yeah,
which is kind of cool.
Not really a game for me. I thought I'd like it, but no.
You'd rather just play Virtua Fighter 5 separately in a separate game.
I would.
Cut out the middleman, right? Basically.
Exactly.
Cut out the middle game. Okay. Well, yeah, that is an hour and 2 minutes of us back again after. Christmas. Hopefully there won't be any more long gaps like that. Maybe this Christmas coming up, but we obviously try and knock them out a couple of months. But Stu, where can you find us?
Well, you can find our website, consoleshock.net, or you can find our podcast, Console Shock, on any podcast client. I believe we're on all of them now. So things like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, what's it, Stitcher? Is that another one?
It is.
So you can find our feeds on all of that. So subscribe to those. And also we've got a Facebook page and we've got a Twitter. And actually, if you want to see that video of that guy playing the game in Singapore in the airport, check out our Twitter and I'll put the video on there of him without his permission. So please look for that. So that's
cool.
it really.
Well, thank you very much, Stu, for joining as always. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the latest episode, and we will catch you in the next one. Take care, everyone.
Take it easy. Speak soon. Bye-bye.